Okay, guys, as promised, this is the first of actually two videos I'm making for you this weekend. We got our next quiz, excuse my throat, coming up Tuesday. So we do have tomorrow also to study together with. I want to just remind you, I would make some flashcards if you know you need it. I'll let you use flashcards. All right, enough said. Here we go. So this is problem 15 from Friday's worksheet. And notice we know that we have this angle here. And of course, we already know the 9-degree angle. Well, we could find angle A right there, right? Because every triangle adds up to 180 degrees. So I go to my calculator, 180 minus 90 minus 58. I know the missing angle must be 32 degrees. Okay, so now that we know that angle is 32 degrees, we found all the angles. Our goal here, again, is to solve the triangle, which means we find everything that's missing. We know all the angles. Now, how about we find this missing side over here? Okay? Well, knowing that we have a 58-degree angle there, the 12 is my hypotenuse. Remember, the hypotenuse is always the biggest side. Basically, try to find the hypotenuse first every time. Find the biggest side. It's always opposite the 90. Now, X here, notice, is right next to 58. That's what we call my adjacent side. So, according to SOHCAHTOA, cosine tells us cosine is adjacent hypotenuse. So I know that the cosine of 58 degrees equals our adjacent over hypotenuse. So I'm going to do cosine 58, and I'm going to times by 12 to find x. So cosine 58 times 12. Let's go to at least one decimal place. So the 5 here tells me to round the 3 up to 4. So I know that this missing side is 6.4 meters. Now, we're only missing this side up here. We're going to use Pythagorean theorem. Let's call this A or B and this A or B. You pick which one you want. The 12 here must be your C. Remember, the hypotenuse must always be your C. So we're basically going to go A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Notice to find A squared, I'm going to have to minus the 6.4 squared from each side. So let's see what that is. 12 squared minus 6.4 squared, 103. We then take the square root, since we want C, not C squared. 103 is C squared. And shoot, hopefully I have the actual, there it is. And it ends up being 10.15. The 5 tells me to round this 1 here up to a 2. So we're going to say 10.2. All right, let's try to pick the pace up a little bit, guys. Remember to pause or rewind the video if I happen to go too fast. Here we go. On this one here, we know the 51-degree angle. We already know the 90. 180 minus 90 minus 51 is 39 degrees. Next, let's find this side over here, guys. Always try to find the legs first, the opposite or adjacent sides. Save this hypotenuse here, the longest side, for Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so to find x here, notice it's opposite to 51. The 15 is adjacent. What uses O and A? Tangent. TOA tells us tangent of, in this case, 51 degrees equals the opposite over the adjacent. So we're going to do tangent 51, and we're going to times by 15 to get our missing side x. Tangent 51 times 15 18.5. So now that I know this side is 18.5, let's use Pythagorean theorem to find the hypotenuse. So we're going to do 15 squared plus 18.5 squared. That, of course, will equal c squared. Let's do it. 15 squared, 18.5 squared. Let's do the square root on it. 23.8 is my missing hypotenuse. Okay, let's try the next one. 17. Ooh, we don't know the angle, so this time we have to start with SOHCAHTOA to find an angle. But why don't we find this missing side first? I know that x squared plus 15 squared has to equal 16 squared, right? And if I minus the 15 squared, x squared is going to be their difference. So here we go. 16 squared minus 15 squared is 31. We take the square root because we want c, not c squared, and that rounds off to 5.6. So this time we found all the sides already. Now, which angle we're going to find? Well, why don't we find angle B here first? Let's see if that's what I did. Yes, I did. Hold on. Yes. So I could have also found A first, but with B, notice the 16 is my hypotenuse. 15 is adjacent. According to Ka, we know that cosine of B has got to be adjacent over hypotenuse. So we're going to divide 15 with 16. If that's cosine, we're then going to do cosine inverse on this value to find angle B. So 15 divides 16. We're going to do cosine inverse on it. So our angle is 20.4 if I round it off. 20.4 degrees. Now, what about angle A? Well, just like we did in the previous problems, 180 minus the 90 minus our newfound angle, 20.4. We know our other missing angle must be 69.6. So, we got to know Pythagorean theorem. We got to know our SOHCAHTOA. We got to know triangles add up to 180. Let's do another one. Here we go. Oh, we know the angle. Good. 180 minus 90 minus that 36, 54 degrees. Okay. Notice we know the hypotenuse already, ladies and gents. And just to be a little different, I think I did sine. Okay, cool. So I decided to find this missing side. Let's call it x. And just to be a little different, I decided I want to do sine. So I'm going to use a 36-degree angle. Notice how x is opposite. We already know 6 is my hypotenuse, the biggest side. According to SO, we know that the sine of 36 degrees has to be the opposite over the hypotenuse. So we're going to do the sine of 36. We're then going to times by 6 to find our missing side x. So sine 36 times 6, that tells us is 3.5. So our missing side here is 3.5. How do we find this side? Let's do Pythagorean theorem. We'll call this A again, and this B. So A squared plus our B squared has to equal C squared. Now remember the hypotenuse, sorry, I had to sneeze there, guys. The hypotenuse is always our C. The biggest side is always our C. All right, so notice here, I'm going to minus 3.5 squared from both sides. And we'll have our side squared, and then we'll do the square root. So 6 squared minus 3.5 squared. We do the square root of it. Rounding that answer off, we're going to know that this missing side is 4.9. All right, let's squeeze in one more, guys. Oh, we know the angle 63.2. No big deal. 180 minus the 90 minus the 63.2. Our missing angle must be 26.8 degrees. Again, guys, let's find this side here. Save the hypotenuse for last, because it's easier to do Pythagorean theorem with missing hypotenuse. So, notice how x is opposite of 63. The 8 is adjacent. What uses O and A? TOA. TOA tells us the tangent of 63.2 has to be the x over 8. So we're going to do the tangent. We're then going to times by 8. And we will have our missing side x. So tangent times 8. That rounds off to 15.8. Now we're ready for Pythagorean theorem to find the hypotenuse. 8 squared plus 15.8 squared equals our c squared. All right. So 15.8 squared plus 8 squared is 313 and some change. We got to take the square root because we want c, not c squared. And that tells us our hypotenuse is 17.7. So guys, if you just watch, pause, rewind, and study this video, you should know triangles are always 180. You should know your SOHCAHTOA. You should know your Pythagorean theorem. And that's going to be a large part of the quiz on Tuesday. See you in class.